and EACC. Now, to talk more on this, I'm joined by John Mwaka, who is the CEO of SASRA, and he's going to answer some of the questions. But before he answers some of your questions, let's now know what the role of SASRA is. Thank you for coming to our studios.
Thank you for having me.
Maybe we can start by the role of SASRA as we continue now.
Thank you. SASRA basically is an acronym for Sacco Societies Regulatory Authority. It's the regulator for deposit-taking Saccos currently in Kenya. We've got two segments of Saccos. We've got deposit-taking Saccos. These are Saccos that have got banking halls. They take time deposits. And then we also have non-deposit-taking Saccos. These are Saccos that actually operate back office. They do not have banking halls, and therefore they do not have walk-in clients who operate time deposits. I mean, sort of savings. So SASRA basically was created in 2010 by the government to regulate deposit-taking Saccos to ensure there is an implementation of what we call prudential regulatory framework, the basis for regulating and ensuring performance and the growth of cooperatives in Kenya. And so our business is to license, supervise, and regulate deposit-taking Saccos so that then they can be able to allow for access of financial resources to Kenyans and ensure that the sector grows to the levels that Kenyans expect.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, you have said you are the regulator, but we have seen rising cases of rogue Saccos in the country. As SASRA, what have you been doing about that?
To the contrary, if you look at the data of Saccos that are performing very well for the last 5 years, actually it's in the increase. It's only a few Saccos that, in fact, majority which do not follow under the armpit of SASRA that have got those challenges. But they are not really very many. However, we still have a few rotten apples that run Saccos like personal businesses, and that's where the problem comes in. Now, what are we doing as a regulator? First, we are already formulating regulation for non-deposit-taking Saccos, which are mostly affected by these challenges of governance. Secondly, as you have already mentioned, we are creating an anti-fraud investigative unit. Well, that's going to be housed within SASRA. It's going to be, of course, manned by officers from DCI who are going to be part of SASRA, and we shall be able to deal with such cases where we realize not only non-compliance issues are coming in, but also issues of fraud.
Okay, so when do we expect this new regulations to come in?
The regulations actually are ready. We are waiting for their finalization and the gazettement. Of course, they are going to go into Parliament through the delegated committee for legislation. And once that is done, then we anticipate by the close of the year, we should be able to have them up and running. But for the anti-fraud unit, investigative unit, we expect it to be up and running in the next 2 months. Okay. Yeah.
Maybe for members out there who maybe are wondering whether their money is safe, you've said when you, contrary to the rising number of rogue cases, there are actually good Saccos out there. What would you say about the current status of the Sacco industry?
The Sacco sector, or the Sacco industry generally, is very stable and performing very well. That is why today 45% of all the savings of Kenyans are actually within Saccos. And so there should be no cause for worry. The industry is very stable, and we are professionalizing the industry as time goes. Unlike the banking sector, where you find that before a bank is created, it has to comply. The regulator for Sacco societies, now SASRA, we came on board and found Saccos were already operating. And so we are trying to ensure that they comply with the prudential regulatory framework and other requirements that are supposed to be there or in place for them to run these organizations actually professionally. But more importantly is that we are taking action. And we are taking action against Sacco boards and management staff, including the CEOs who are running down this organization deliberately. And so we have cases where we have removed the entire board or even the management and ensure that we put in place the right people that are able to run these programs in the right way.
Okay.
Yes.
A number of Saccos are facing liquidity challenges and also are at a risk of going under. As the regulator, where do you come in when it comes to maybe such?
Liquidity challenges are normal for any financial institutions because you've got to grapple with the fluctuations and oscillations. I mean, there are times when you really require lots of liquidity, like the end of the month, or maybe you are paying bonuses, tea bonuses, coffee bonuses, where you expect great demand. You expect the Sacco requires liquidity at that point in time. Unlike the banking sector, where they've got the ability to borrow from each other, the Sacco industry has no mechanism of borrowing from each other. And we are working on that, on a program we are calling Central Liquidity Mechanism that we are working on. And it is the training that we are putting in place so that now the Sacco directors, because you see most of the Saccos are either teacher-based, government employee-based, others are farmer-based Saccos. So you realize that directors are drawn actually from membership. And if they are drawn from membership, sometimes they are not really professional in running banking-like business. And so a lot of capacity building, developing their skills and competencies becomes very critical so that they can be able to address the issue of liquidity as they manage the financials.
Okay. Yeah. Now, with the formulation of the National Cooperative Development Policy, one of the recommendations is restructuring SASRA. How will that work?
Restructuring SASRA is an ongoing process. And the restructuring means closing the gaps that we identify are supposed to be closed so that then you can be more effective. And one of the key issues that actually now is bringing the issue of restructuring is because we are anticipating, we are expecting to bring on board additional Saccos. SASRA currently is regulating 175 deposit-taking Saccos. With the new regulations for non-deposit-taking Saccos, we are expecting at least 250 plus Saccos to come on board. That means that we need to increase our capacity in terms of the numbers of staff in place. We need to think about having regional offices. We need to think about transport and other infrastructural requirements that are required to come on board. So that is basically what we are looking at towards restructuring the authority. Okay. Yes.
Maybe asking you about the role of the commissioner and the role of SASRA. Do you think sometimes they kind of like overlap?
There are two legal instruments that we implement. The Commissioner for Cooperative Development in Kenya implements Cooperative Societies Act. And the Cooperative Societies Act is majorly a registration document. And then SASRA actually licenses Saccos that have already been registered by the Commissioner for Cooperative. Actually, our work is very complementary. There could be a bit of a duplicity because, you see, Saccos are cooperatives. And you know, according to the Kenyan constitutions, all cooperatives are devolved. It's a devolved function. So we also work in partnership with county governments. And so ours is really not, it's more of a partnership and a complementary, and there are no conflicting roles actually, because the Commissioner for Corporate Development sits in our board. And so we are able to compare notes as we implement these laws because the laws actually run parallel. Okay,
earlier on you did talk about the non-deposit Saccos. Want to know, you talked about regulation. When do we expect these regulations to be rolled out for non-deposit Saccos?
As I indicated earlier, these regulations are ready. They've gone through the motions of stakeholder participation. They've already gone to the cabinet. They've already gone through the process as is required by the law. The only remaining bit is for them to go now to the committee or the House in the National Assembly so that then it can go through the delegated legislative committee. From there, they will be gazetted. Once they are gazetted, then we should be able to implement them.
Okay. Yep. Thank you so much for coming to our studios.
Thank you.
We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Well, there has been the CEO of SASRA, and his name is John Mwaka. We've been talking about the role of SASRA. Now, my name is Caroline Jenga, and have a great afternoon. See you on Monday.